All right, episode
That's what I was doing, is why I wasn't talking.
15,
No, it's after 15.
22,
We're at least 19.
11.
This is episode 19 of 500 Cats. It's a podcast that is slowly but surely evolving because we don't really know what it's about. The first few ones we interviewed people, and since then we've been kind of getting techie, and we make AI songs. So it's really about nothing. So now's your chance to tune out.
But
It's like the Seinfeld of podcasts.
that was the whole point behind it. It's a podcast about whatever we want it to be about.
Yeah, and that's nice because we have a ski podcast, How to Ski It, which is about skiing, and we ski a couple times a week, so it's really easy to talk about stuff. And this one's a little bit different, but we talked about losing airline status last episode, and then we had an AI song called Riding the Cheat Seats, which shot up to the top of our SoundCloud playlist.
Yeah,
So,
quickly.
Obviously, that was a hit. And then as long as we're talking about status, super interesting that I flew a fair amount last year, 16 flights, and didn't make any status at United. And then my wife did go pay $328 to get me to silver at United, which hurts me to spend extra money.
It's crazy that you didn't make status. Say you said 16?
16.
16 flights, three to Hawaii.
3 flights to Hawaii.
That's insane that you wouldn't have made status with that. So it's, yeah,
And here's more insane.
cash grab.
Is I got an email from, because I have a Delta credit card. And so I have a Delta Sky Miles account, and I used to fly Delta, and I didn't leave for any particular reason. It's just that they're not heavily servicing Denver.
Yeah.
But I got an email from them that said, we'll match your status. And so Delta was offering to give me gold if I leave United. And I'm not going to do it because it would be mutiny here at BCC
Yeah.
with some of the other people on this podcast. But
Everyone else has status, and you're like, hey, guys, we're leaving so I can have status.
well, yeah, but you guys would get status match too. But then every flight would be from like Denver to Salt Lake and then to
Yeah.
Phoenix.
I gotcha.
You know, because there is some direct flights from Denver. If we had events in Salt Lake, Minneapolis, Atlanta, you know, but we go to Atlanta a couple times a year, and
Yeah.
United services that. And then after we paid the $300, they were like, hey, if you want to pay $2,500 more, we'll just give you your status back. So
Insane.
in short, I'm ready to retire and stop traveling.
Now, the money that you spent was from the business monopoly money stuff, right?
Okay, so the $328 was US dollars.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that's what really hurt. We're part of a thing at United called Jetstream, and that's where you pay up front. So you give them, I think we give them $50,000. We spend about $190,000 on air travel a year. I think we knocked it down like 10% this year from just
Nice.
being more assertive with who we fly with and when. But when you give United that $50,000, they give you $10,000 of monopoly money that you can use for club passes and amenities. They're called amenity dollars. And so we bought, almost everybody in the company I think everybody does have a club pass.
Yeah.
So we bought everybody club passes, and we've kind of shared that stuff around and been pretty good with it. But then they were like, we'll take 2,500 of it and put you back to gold. But on principle, I would rather just fly less
Right.
because
Right.
it seems like I've paid my money. Those tickets to Hawaii were expensive.
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
But
it's a scam.
It
is a
is a scam. I pulled up United here. I had 58 flights last year with 9,292 Premier qualifying points. I needed 12,000 to get back to Platinum. They sent me an email yesterday. I have 1 day left to spend $3,616 to cover the difference to get back to Platinum.
Well, that's easy. Just go spend it, man. Why are you sitting here?
Yeah.
But doesn't, I don't think that equates.
Yeah.
But it's insane. And then last year I flew less and had more status.
Yeah. And I think here's and we could talk about this all episode. Maybe we should. It's a giant scam.
Yes.
So they get you thinking you need it. And just to be clear with United, at Silver, you get a free bag.
Yep.
And you can move your seat 24 hours before your flight.
When you check
so
in.
you can buy a cheap seat. And then if there are any better seats, not first class, but like economy plus seats, you can move the day before. And that's it. That's nothing. Like that's what you get for more than 16 flights for sure. And then if you're gold, that's where it starts to work for us is you get two 70-pound bags.
Yeah.
And we travel with a ton of garbage. So two 70-pound bags is like a whole video production the way we travel.
Yep.
And then you also can choose your seat when you book your ticket. So you can say, I want to buy a cheap seat, but then you can choose an economy plus seat. So gold, there's some value to, but here's the thing. They've been devaluing these things.
Yeah, like crazy.
When I started flying United, gold meant you got a club pass.
Oh, really?
You know, and now you don't get a club pass. I mean, you got to be, does 1K get it?
I don't
No,
think so.
I don't think anybody
Global
gets it.
Services probably gets it.
Maybe, yeah.
Which is there. And like there once was a day when gold was the best, like boarding group 1. And
Yeah.
now gold is like the new bronze.
Yeah, gold is what silver was whenever I first started. Because gold, you get in boarding group 1. Silver, you used to get in boarding group 1. Now you don't.
And that's important to me because
Yeah.
I have this backpack that's too big to go under a lot of seats.
Yeah.
Because it has camera gear. And so getting on last, I used to always get on last. I used to make them call my name. I would sit there until they, I didn't let them close the door and make a scene. But 5 minutes before they close the door, they'd be like, these passengers. And that's when I would go because I didn't travel with anything.
Yeah.
And then inconveniencing the people on the aisle in the middle
Not
didn't
a
bother
problem.
me. But now it does. I'm a better flyer now.
Can I tell a story about those big backpacks?
Yes, I love this story. Because this was going to Panama City Beach.
Yeah. And so Dave and I had literally the exact same backpack. It's a big Mountain Smith.
Best backpack ever made
Best
for
backpack
cameras.
ever made. Until it starts to break down and then things fall around the sides. But it was
mine
the
did
best.
hundreds of trips.
Hundreds.
So Mountain Smith is great stuff from
Absolutely.
here in Colorado, but hundreds and hundreds of trips.
And insanely well protected, big enough for everything. Well, Dave and I both travel with the same backpack loaded to the teeth with electronics and camera gear and everything. Well, we're getting on this small plane and Dave's in front of me and walks on. I've already taken my backpack off. I'm holding it in front of me because I know I need to put it in the compartment and I just don't want to mess with it whenever I get on the plane. The aisles are too small. I just want to carry it on. The flight attendant sees me and he goes, "Hey, that's not going to fit in the bins." I was like, "No, it's going to be fine. I've done this before with this backpack. It's going to be fine." And he's like, "No, it's not. It's too big. You're going to have to check it." I said, "This is nothing but batteries and electronics. It can't be checked." And he's like, "All right, well, just don't, if you force it in there, you're going to break my bin. Don't break my bin." I was like, "All right, deal." I go back very gently, put my bag in, get it all in there. I make sure it closes. Great. I sit down. Guy's coming through, closing the doors at the end. He closes mine, walks to the next one. It doesn't close. And Dave's backpack is sitting right in there. And he turns around and looks at me and goes, "I told you." And I looked him dead in the eyes and I said, "That's not my bag."
And that guy was a little more wound up than that.
He was.
He could have used law enforcement de-escalation training.
Yeah.
Because he suggested that if Marcus put his bag in there, they'd have to ground the fleet,
Yeah.
basically.
It was excessive.
But it was funny because he lost his marbles.
Yeah.
And I wasn't on the plane when he was having the conversation with
Right.
Marcus. So I came in and shoved my bag in, broke the bin, whatever it takes.
I mean,
Yeah, you just got to
I
get it
paid
in
for
there.
my ticket.
trying to get to Panama City Beach.
and it was able to be adjusted and closed. But it was so funny because the guy was like, "I told you." Not my bag, dude.
Good try.
You closed mine already. Anyway, sorry. I just
No,
I
No,
love
that was
story.
that. I mean, and if you travel like we do, you have hundreds of stories like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
of people getting towed off planes and stuff like that. But we'll see what happens with the status. I am ready to stop flying because, like I said, they they've devalued that stuff. And now you're grinding to get something that really doesn't matter. And I've said this a bunch of times. Show me somebody that's got platinum elite for life, and I'll show you somebody that's been on the road a lot and probably is bitter about it.
Yeah.
And I do take my hotel status super seriously, although I'm losing a lot of that too. I'm lifetime, but I'm losing the yearly stuff. But it's not as good of a thing as you might think. It means you're not at home. And if you travel a lot, it's probably not, I went to Fiji and then I went to New Zealand and then it's most likely like us that Ryan's been to Phoenix and then we're going to get ready to go to Las Vegas here in a few weeks.
I'm going to Monterey.
That'll be cool.
It will be cool. Don't get me wrong. It's not that we never go to cool places, but you're always working.
Yeah.
And you're there for, like, I'm going to be there for essentially a day.
Yeah, but for a site visit, which is going to be super
a lot
awesome. And we can't wait to talk more about that.
Yeah.
That we're getting into some cool new sports.
Yep.
Which kind of takes us into the next subject is
new equipment.
And video transmission is part of everything we do. And there's really two big kinds of video transmission. There's over the internet, and then there's like, I don't know what you call it, but local or RF.
Should we call that VoIP? Video over IP.
local transmission. And so we've got it down on the internet and stuff like that. But one of the things we're going to be doing this year, which is super exciting to me, is we're going to have people on motorcycles. And this isn't somebody riding on the back. This is somebody driving.
Yeah.
In dirt sports with cameras on it. And then they're going to be transmitting to a transmission vehicle, which will then be transmitting to the internet because there's too much equipment to put on a mountain bike to transmit to the internet with the quality and consistency that we want. So we've got these little, and they're not very expensive. It's a $500 item from DJI, who, if you've heard the DJI and you're not familiar, is a Chinese drone maker. And they mainly make drones, but now they're making cameras.
Yeah.
And they got so good at the transmission equipment between the controller of a drone and the video transmission back and forth that now they just got rid of the controller and the drone, and you can buy just the transmission stuff.
And DJI is known as like the best drone maker, period. So when DJI releases something new, we get super excited. We have DJI mics that are the best prosumer mics you can possibly buy.
By a lot.
Have you seen their battery packs that they make?
No.
Like they make little like the Jackery style.
Yeah.
Dude.
I might have to get one.
They are wildly expensive.
They're struggling to sell them because they're all like half price.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, I mean, and that put them at normal price. So
that makes sense.
These are $550 for the 1000 portable power station. They just look cool.
Yeah. And it's DJI, so you know it's quality.
Yeah. But sorry, the transmitter receiver, it's the SDR transmitter receiver. SDR stands for Standard Dynamic Range. You've probably heard HDR a lot, which is High Dynamic Range. That's just the number of colors and essentially brightness that can be transmitted. It's really big right now to have HDR, but this is, generally speaking, most broadcasts, especially internet broadcasts, are not broadcast in HDR, so that's irrelevant to us. And our cameras aren't HDR.
And they do make a HDR one, I think. The next level
do they?
up.
Which is about 4X on price. So these are about $600. And then the first place we're really going to try it out is in Las Vegas at the world's largest selfie.
Yeah.
We set a video camera out in the run course, and then we transmit the video, I don't know, like 200 meters, 300 meters to
across the street, essentially.
Yeah, to Resorts World. And then they put it up on the world's largest video screen, which I think now is the second world's largest video screen because of the Sphere.
Right.
And I don't know. But I choose Resorts World anyway because I love those guys.
Dude, they're amazing.
Super. They're pros.
We should try and get them on the podcast while we're there.
Oh, that's a great idea.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, and they have a lot of experience. Like they take us backstage and show us, and they were telling us about a Taylor Swift concert and how they did stuff. And
I got to go in their tunnels.
Oh, nice.
Underneath. It was really cool.
Nice.
And the guy was like, yeah, we'll go in this back door right here because they won't check IDs. So we snuck in through the back. It was awesome.
Yeah, good stuff. So we'll get to try out the the DJI
SDR transmitter receiver.
And again, then after we try it out in Las Vegas at the Rock and Roll Las Vegas, that's when we're working diligently on outfitting motos and e-bikes,
Yeah.
which me and Ryan are stoked about that because we both ride e-bikes.
Yep.
And it's going to be interesting to see how much video we can shoot of professional cyclists on an e-bike.
Yeah.
Because I think that's going to be the big challenge,
Definitely.
is keeping up.
I need to get a motorcycle license,
Yes.
and I need to get significantly better at mountain biking.
Yeah, for some of the stuff we're going to shoot, and we want to get up in there.
Yeah.
So exciting stuff, and we'll talk more about that as we get closer to it. But we're out renting side-by-sides and motos and all kinds of stuff. So a really big year when it comes to transmission and stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll tell you what we learned
Yeah.
about video transmission. Because right now we're using a company called Hollyland for our local transmissions.
Which is excellent.
Excellent. And if you see their name, everything they make is excellent, and they're newer
Yeah.
to the scene, but they're knocking it out of the park. And I hear their comms are really good. Those are like
Oh, nice.
headsets that you wear in the field, and we don't use comms like that because they don't go inside motorcycle helmets and think like that we want them to.
Yeah.
You have to get special comms for that.
Off topic, you see how cheap e-bikes are right now?
No.
There's a lot of e-bikes on sale, like under $5,000.
Nice.
There's a lot of really nice e-bikes.
That's good to know. I can't buy an e-bike. I just can't
But you
do it.
want to.
Oh, well, I want to bad. One other thing we didn't mention on the transmitter receiver, and this is again backed up by DJI's just normal stuff. It says that it can go up to 3 kilometers or 10,000 feet. And again, with DJI, you fly a drone, you can fly it so far away from you. Like, I believe that this will work. Honestly, I would bet line of sight, this will work no problem, 2 kilometers.
I agree. And that's a long way. So
long way.
when we're talking local, in a lot of the sports we have, they have a start finish area, and so you can bring people in from a quarter mile out on local transmission. And then what that does is gives you like local camera switcher more options.
Yeah.
More shots to choose from. Should I choose the person following the leader in, or should I take the drone shot or whatever? And then all that gets piped back to the studio where then they can even choose, should we go back and look at the women's race and stuff like that? So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. And then the last part of that whole is action cameras that we've always used GoPros, and we've had a lot of luck with GoPros. If you're familiar with GoPros, they're the main name in action cameras, but
I'm pretty sure between the staff, we've owned every rendition of a GoPro.
yes,
That
without
is
a doubt.
Because I think
accurate.
you've had the first one or first two,
And I had like
and then it was just no brainer
5.
from there.
I know Dave's I had the 3, I think is when I started, but I think you had the 1 and 2 when you had the drone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have the 13 yet.
Yeah.
I assume that I'll get the 13 at some point because it's got some nice small. I mean, that's the thing about these companies. Their upgrades are so small, but they're meaningful. And then the last thing on GoPros, before we talk about a couple other action cameras, is they come with like a developer kit that you can get in and make tweaks to how your GoPro operates. So one of the drawbacks of GoPros is they overheat, but there's a thing called GoPro Labs, and you can install it on your GoPro. It's made by GoPro. And then once you install it on, you've acknowledged to GoPro, I might ruin my device, but you can turn off that overheat feature.
Yeah.
And I would rather have a camera burn up on a giant broadcast than shut off because of heat when I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
And
Because
so-
I've been burned by
When
that.
it's not even that hot.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, of course it's warm,
But
but
it might be sitting in the sun or
Yeah.
something like that. And so, and usually that's not an issue because we're moving.
Right.
And then the airflow keeps the cameras cool. But in this case, GoPro Labs allows you to configure everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
GoPro is the best worst camera ever made.
That, I
Check out
stand by that.
the This Won't Take Long video on our socials.
Yeah.
Marcus does an in-depth dive onto why we love and hate GoPro.
Yeah,
so
if you
much.
want to hear me rant for a solid 10 minutes about GoPro, both positive and negative, you check out
At the end of
that
the day,
video.
there's no one better.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
And no one worse.
And I'll bet if you calculated footage by the minute, I'll bet we've shot more with GoPro than we have with Sony. And the reason that I go by that is we've shot a lot of
All gas.
full gas Roovy.
Yeah.
You know,
That'd be close. Because think about all the sit-down interviews.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking at first. And I was thinking about like conferences. We use the Sony, the PXW X90s, and which is just a model of camera. That would be an interesting thing to look at between like recording courses on multiple GoPros for multiple hours and then conferences and interviews.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I wonder if AI could go figure that out by file type. Like
Yeah.
I think file type would be the dead giveaway.
Totally.
Definitely.
So, and then you add in drone footage is another one that probably has a lot of hours. So anyway, back to action cams. Action cams on the motos and the bikes plugged into these DJI SDI transmitters, transmitting back to a vehicle that has a live view pack in it and a Starlink.
Yep.
And then that's broadcasting it back here to Boulder, Colorado. Is it all going to work? Yes. What kind of things are we going to learn here shortly? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm excited to learn. This is like such a new way to do things, especially for us. I know other people do similar things, but I'm really excited for how unique this is.
Yeah. And then another action camera that we will not be using in this case, but we will be using this year is the Insta360. I think it's the Mini S.
Mini 3S.
Mini 3S.
Sorry, Go 3S.
Mini Go 3S. And it's kind of a weird design that it comes in like a battery case that like keeps it charged and dumps the footage and stuff like that. And then you take it out of that case and then it's a micro size camera that you can clip on somebody's collar. And we're hoping to put this on. And just in case anybody from Ironman's listening, not Ironman triathlon bikes.
Yes.
Because it's forbidden. And we may like at some point ask for permission. And I'm guessing there's crazy cool stuff we could do. But we're talking about putting this on motorcycles, dirt bikes, mountain bikes, gravel bikes, stuff like that.
I'll put it on my own mountain bike. I think if it does what it looks like it can do, it would be a sweet
Dude,
shot.
I want this camera. It's sweet.
It doesn't record GPS.
Yeah.
And so one of the big things that we do is we take action footage that has GPS embedded in it, and then we apply telemetry to the screen, and especially like in skiing, that this person's going 40 miles an hour on a 14% grade, and it gives the viewer a little more insight on what's happening. And so those little mini cameras don't have GPS, so you'd have to get a bike computer, take the bike computer, marry it up, and then now you might have just created a bridge too far to get that on TV.
Yeah.
In a timely manner.
Yeah, you if you're doing it for like yourself, it probably would be worth the steps just to make your own little fun videos. But
you would use a
get
GoPro that has the GPS built in, not the 12.
Right.
So
for some reason they removed GPS from the 12.
7 through 11, they had GPS, and then no 12, and then they added it back in 13.
I think even the 5 had GPS. Because I used the GPS on mine whenever I first started working here, and I had the 5.
My personal GoPro is a 12.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say personal, the company owns it, but I hoard it to myself. So anyway, lots of fun stuff. And as we try this stuff out, it's a great time of year is we're trying this stuff out on snow because you can't really go ride bikes and stuff like that yet this time of year. So
yeah.
Anyway, what else we got?
And then there was one other action camera that's kind of in the same space as the Insta360 and the GoPro, and that's the DJI Action. It's pretty sweet. I've played with it a little bit. Is
that the one Tom has?
Maybe.
I think Eddie has one of those. But let me ask you a question. So there's a couple other action cameras too, but there's the DJI. There's let's ignore the Insta360 one I talked about.
Yeah.
But they have
another one.
They have an actual GoPro shaped action camera. Do you think there's really any difference? Because
called the Ace.
The big thing with action cameras is image stabilization. And so you ride a mountain bike down a bumpy hill and the footage will make you sick, but these cameras fix it and make it smooth. And I know DJI does a great job at that. We see it in their drones. I assume Insta360, I own a 360 camera from them that has incredible I think they call it something flow.
Yeah, flow state.
Something, yeah.
Flow.
And then GoPro's the master at this. So, but do you think there's really any difference
state.
in those cameras at the end? They all have about a 2-hour battery. You know, they all have great stabilization. They all have, you know, GoPro used to lead the way with their back-end software, and now their back-end software is almost unusable.
Yeah.
And it's just, they made it so much worse.
I would say that the only differences are the usability features, like things that make it nice to use. Insta360 and DJI's mount is not built into the camera. So if you put a case around the camera, you can still take it in and out really easily and mount it really easily, very quickly. GoPros, I don't know. I think you told me the 13 might be different, but the 5 all the way through the 12 were some of the worst mounting designs I've ever seen, that you had to mount through the case. And so you'd have to take the entire camera apart to get to an SD card. And I feel like I don't think there's at this point, any reason to say any one of those cameras is not quality, doesn't have good stabilization or good image. It's just the features. What features do you want? Go with the one that has the features you want.
Yeah, and the reason I want to switch over to DJI for that is so I don't get 25 emails a week that say sign up for the GoPro subscription.
Yeah.
Like there's no amount of email you can send to GoPro to say stop sending me this. I already have a subscription and I don't want another one. And then they say okay, and then they send you.
Yeah.
I get 2 emails a week.
And the unsubscribe button doesn't work.
Doesn't go
Yeah.
anywhere.
Mark them as spam.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
I block.
Yeah.
But I don't want to block GoPro in general
Right.
because I need to
Just that
do
marketing,
business
yeah.
with them, but it's hard to block them in general. But
Yeah.
anyway, if you have action cams you like, we'd love to hear more about them. And I see
Yeah.
Ryan's got the Osmo 3, the Pocket Osmo 3 up, and we own that camera. And I don't know why they call it an action camera. Listen,
Yeah.
action cameras are meant to be dropped, and we dropped that camera once, and it broke it. But in DJI's defense, they replaced it
Right.
for cheap, and then let us update the warranty on it. And that's another thing I love about DJI is if you break their stuff, their support is awesome.
Yeah.
And GoPro's isn't.
Yeah.
GoPro support is terrible.
And it used to be good.
Did it? I don't ever remember it being
You
good.
used to be able to melt a battery in it. Like if you turned off the heat thing, if you melted it, they'd send you a new one.
Yeah.
And I get why you can't now. Like I'm not saying they should send you a new one for free,
People ruin that.
but you know, like
Everybody.
they send you now a link to get a GoPro at a discount, and it's
Yeah.
like 10% off.
yeah,
It took me over a month. We lost one of the windscreens for the media mod for the microphone. So
For
on
the GoPro.
Yeah, for
because
the
it
GoPro.
doesn't mount properly.
Correct. And it just slips off. And so this windscreen was super valuable, especially when we're on a bicycle chasing an athlete on a skateboard. And it popped off at an event or in my pocket, wherever. And I came back. It's like, look, my bad. I'm going to try and buy one. A, you can't buy one. And B, you reach out to GoPro and they're like, yeah, no, they don't sell those anywhere. And you're like, well, can I have a new one? A month later, it just randomly showed up at the office. They shipped one for free. But
So props to them.
props
Thank
to
you.
them.
But
Big thank you. But hey, yeah, no worries. We'll send you one. It might take a little while. It was just, nah, good luck. And then it showed up at the door. I was like, how do I what happens if this happens again?
yeah,
Yeah, well, let me ask you a question. And GoPro by far exceeds everybody in accessories.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
That's where they sucker you in on a $300 or $400 camera and then sell you $1,000 of accessories. But if somebody came to you and said, I want to start making action videos, I want to get an action camera, which is a specific category that may or may not make sense, so it might not be the right camera. They do everything,
yeah.
but they're made to be waterproof, drop proof, stuff like that. What would you recommend to people? Would you just say, go ahead and just get the GoPro?
I would ask them what their goal was. If they're going to strap it on the front of a bike and that's like the way they're going to use it, I would say GoPro. It's still such a good camera, even with the frustrations. And especially if they're planning to use the GoPro app and they're editing on their phone, yeah, go with GoPro. But if they're like, oh, I kind of want to, I'm making a vlog, but it's like my action vlog and I'm going to talk to the camera some, I would say like the Insta360, and I think the DJI does this too, has a flip up monitor that you can pop up and
So you can
and
see
do that.
yourself.
Exactly.
And the GoPro has a monitor in the front.
Oh, it does have that little square
But
monitor.
Yeah,
But I hate
and the
that.
reason I ask that is, I don't know. I might send somebody to DJI where you honestly are probably getting a little bit less all around quality accessories, but then back to the support
Yeah, that's true.
that they just really do good. And I don't know how they do it. Obviously, they have support here in the United States.
Yeah.
Because you're not sending the stuff back to China, but it takes just a couple days and you get your drone back or you get your camera back. And for a professional, taking 60 days to get my GoPro back means my blog or whatever's on hold for 60 days. And taking 5 days means I'm back in business. And to be clear, if you're buying DJI products or GoPro products, most of these luxurious support options are extra.
Yeah.
And I've never dealt with Insta360 on support things, although I did lose the door on our Insta360 1-inch, which I don't really feel like we need. And they were like, tough luck.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, so if you lose the door, and they were like, it's not a part that's in our catalog. And maybe they've fixed it since then. But and again, it's not a waterproof camera. So the door is really just for dust, and it's the charging door. It doesn't do anything else. But
still, you would like to have the door on there.
Yeah, so I don't know about their support, but I know about DJI's support is superior.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about DJI to say I would recommend it. I'd probably recommend GoPro. My question for GoPro or for anybody is when they're doing like these GoPro videos that you see on YouTube with Travis Pastrana or the pilots for Red Bull, their editors have to have the same complaints we do unless we're missing something. Like they have to deal with the SD card being inside the media mod and taking the entire camera apart, but they're shooting with 20 cameras and trying to edit all this footage. And I don't get why it hasn't been fixed.
I think I can guess at that is that our workflow isn't designed for GoPros.
Yeah.
But if you're like a Red Bull editor shooting with only GoPros, I'm just taking a wild guess. You have 20, you need 10. They all have cards. They're all formatted. They're all set up the same or specifically whatever that is. And then you have like a 5-card card reader and you're just used to dumping like a zillion pieces of footage. I would be shocked if they're dumping the footage with Quick, which is the GoPro app, which is a giant turd.
Giant turd is accurate.
And wait, before I bash Quick too bad, it's also kind of cool. Like if you have a GoPro and your phone connects to it properly, which is about a 50-50 thing, you can suck it off and then you can just say, make me a video. Yeah, that came out wrong. You can pull the footage off.
There you go.
And you can say, make me a video, and it'll add music and it'll add graphics and all this stuff. And then you go to the end of the video and remove the GoPro logo.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I think that's the thing is if you're like,
it's pretty good.
I just want to, I want to make a quick video, which I think the app is named properly, Quick. If you're like, I want to shoot a bunch of stuff with my kids and just, I'm not an editor, I want to put on my phone and bam, you can make a cool little quick edit that send it out to the world and you'd still have all the raw footage on your phone that you could look at later if you wanted. It's great for a specific person, but I'll say this, the next action camera I buy, I can promise won't be GoPro unless they make massive changes that get me really like excited for whatever they're doing.
I agree. And I'm not, this isn't trash GoPro, but we have 15 of them. I'm probably not buying the 13.
Yeah.
Like I probably am going to get the DJI or the Insta360 so we can answer some of these questions from reality rather than just conjecture and support. But I do want to make the point is how many times we've mentioned support. And I feel like, man, if anything's going to drive our business and technology this year, it's going to be able to get support.
Yeah.
And buying the best product in the world is only great until you can't get good support. And then it really isn't that great.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'd rather buy a cheaper, not that DJI is cheaper,
right,
but I'd rather buy a cheaper piece of equipment that has really good support than buy a really expensive piece of equipment. Like our most expensive pieces of equipment here are made from Vizert and they suck.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. They're terrible.
They are. The
number of times they say, I don't know, no more phone calls from you. And it's a feature that they say should work and it doesn't. Like, and then they don't take it out of the feature list or the manuals. They just leave it in there as eye candy and it doesn't work.
But then on the other hand, you have live view.
on that
which
support.
we pay for the support, but
it's worth every penny.
You call them, they answer, hey, Mr. Downey, how you doing? What's the problem today?
Weekends.
Any time of the day, 24 hours a day, and then they're like, let's help you develop that. That's a great idea. We're going to go, let me get my developer team on this.
Have you ever heard LiveView say, let me escalate that? Like you typically, the person that says hello, which is how they answer the phone, knows how to solve the problem. And they walked us through rebuilding one of our servers entirely.
Yeah.
And, and again, I hate to trash Visit, but we've really struggled with their support, and we use a lot of their products, like all our big video switchers and things like that are from Visit. And unfortunately, there's not anybody that really competes on their price point.
Yeah.
And the number of features you get in a switcher. So we could get a cheaper switcher and probably get better support, but not be able to do all the fancy things that we do. So they're going to call us now.
Good.
Yeah, finally.
I'd love for him to call.
Stop leaving messages.
The other thing that has happened with Visit, and why support is so important, is these are production machines that we have to do the literal job that we do. And we're like, hey, yeah, it's flickering a little bit. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, just format.
Yeah, just restart it. Just rebuild it from scratch, which takes a week. And then how many times when you've gotten that, and there's a name for that, I wish it was, it's when, and insurance companies do this, where they just try to wear you out.
Yeah.
And so I think support do that. They they try to wear you out. But how many times when you've said, okay, I'll play this game, I don't have anything to do this week, I'm going to format and rebuild it, has it actually fixed it?
Never.
It never does.
We actually did it once with, we were getting a blue screen between two of our computers. Like if you turned one computer on out of order, it would blue screen, and we got a brand new one, and they're like, yeah, that'll fix it. And it didn't fix it. And they're like, oh, sorry.
I did think we got good support on that subject, but there wasn't a solution.
Yeah.
They sent us all new equipment, and when we set it up and repeated the scenario, it happened again. So then they said, ship the equipment back, and we shipped it back, and they're like, you're right. You guys found a bug.
Yeah.
But that's an exception. But anyway, back to action cameras and support. Back to support, I think most of our decisions this year, and maybe we can just talk about support on another episode, is really drives the hardware purchases. And we used to do this somebody taught me this back 20 years ago when web hosting was kind of new. When we were looking for web hosting providers, we would call their support first.
Oh,
yeah, it was genius.
That's a great idea.
A couple of them would answer, and others would be like, due to an unusually high call volume.
Yeah.
And you were like, And sure enough, and now the internet's a little more dialed in where you can just go look at reviews.
Yeah.
But I think it goes for cars. I had a bad experience once with a Hyundai that they have this 8-year, 80,000-mile warranty, but it didn't cover like any of the electronics in the dash that all went dead. And it was called bumper to bumper.
Oh, yeah.
And then I just found out like it was just false advertising and stuff. So and it was a great car. I had a Hyundai Santa Fe. It was one of the best snow cars, best cars all around. But once the stereo and all the lights on the dash stopped working, it was time to move on because they couldn't fix it. Or the fix was outrageous, so we got rid of it.
Yeah.
But then I would never go back to that.
Yeah, I had a similar experience on a car. Although I think this was the dealer, not the manufacturer, that I had to go in and get a warranty repair, like a recall repair on a Charger, Dodge Charger, and went to the Dodge dealership, and they're like, okay, yeah, it's going to be like a week. I was like, oh, I have an appointment for today. They're like, yeah, it's going to take like a week. I was like, do I get a rental, anything? And they're like, no.
Yeah, that burns me up. A lot of places do that.
Insane.
I don't tolerate that from bike shops.
Oh, yeah.
That bike shops, I don't mind the way like U-Bikes does it now because our office is 3-4 blocks away. That if I decide I need my bike fixed today, I take it in there. And if they can fix it in like 10 or 15 minutes, they'll fix it on the spot and send me on my way. Otherwise, they'll schedule me an appointment, and typically they won't take my bike. If I heaver and like, oh, I'm leaving town, they probably, and I don't think I recommend doing that for no reason.
Right.
But then if you really heaver, they might take your bike. But they set up an appointment, you come back, drop it off at 10 a.m., and then it's ready at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
But I can't stand when somebody gives you an appointment and this happened with our electric car.
Yeah.
And we drove all the way out to Broomfield, and then the appointment was them to schedule an appointment for like 2 months later.
Yeah, it's infuriating.
So
My car finally got repaired because that Dodge dealer also sold Jeeps, and my dad was looking at buying a Jeep, and he was like, "Hey, my son's car is back there," and they're like, "Hey, look, it's repaired."
yeah. So and just to summarize, support, demand better.
Yeah.
Like if you give your business to these companies that don't do a good job, have a reason. Like we're not going anywhere with Visit because they make the best affordable, which is a relative term when it comes to video equipment, switching stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we could go to Grass Valley and add some 4 zeros on the end of the price tag.
Right.
But, you know, demand better, demand support, and do some research on what kind of support there is. I can speak highly of a third of the companies we do business with.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
It is.
AJA is another one that makes video equipment that they answer the phone with hello.
Yeah.
Like a human
That's
being.
amazing.
And then you call a specific number for this specific device. So you get like 1 of 4 people.
Yeah.
And then they actually ask like, how did that production go? Did you get this problem solved? But you pay for it.
Right.
Like their devices are outer worldly expensive.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah.
Support is important stuff. What else we got?
You know what's funny? When I Google action cameras, the FX30 comes up.
That's so weird. The FX30 is a Sony like cinema camera. It's
APS-C, like it's like a DSLR style camera. I don't really know what they call that style of camera. A handheld,
a crop,
mirrorless.
Yeah, there you go. As opposed to like a camcorder.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's considered a mirrorless.
And Sony makes an action cam that is amazing. They still make it because it's been panned for 10 years.
I said yes, and then I was like, they make an action cam? Oh, that's right. That terrible, weird.
The RX-01 or something.
RX, yeah.
And then there's lots of off-market stuff. Yeah, is that the RX-01 or RX-1?
RX-02.
There you go.
Oh, they're on version 2.
And I would love, I wish we had enough money just to buy all these and test them, because I would love to see how the stabilization is on that, where I don't feel like Sony's stabilization is as good as Canon's or as good as GoPro, which is an action camera. So I worry that they're stable. And I don't know. I've never tried the camera. If you've ever used the RX-01 or the RX-02, let us know. Yeah,
maybe it's a silver bullet. I doubt it, though.
I'm getting action camera hungry now.
Yeah, I have the Insta360 website pulling up, and I'm just like, I need to get off of this right now. This is dangerous for me.
I've been on B&H for way too long.
Another piece of equipment that we got that's going in line with that DJI transmitter is we got a new DJI Ronin RS4, which is the name for one of their gimbals, their newest model of their handheld gimbal, which is somewhere that you just mount your camera on. We'd mount like a Sony, and then it helps stabilize. So if you're running along, the gimbal levels off your shot to make it essentially look like an action camera.
Yeah, it makes it stable like a GoPro.
Yeah. It's just significantly heavier and bigger, but it's got like a 6.6 pound capacity, so we can put our camera with a nice big lens on it. We can run around. It has the ability to use, if your lens has digital zooming, which ours does, you can actually zoom the lens using the handle. It has, if you get the big battery, it's got 29 and a half hours of battery life, supposedly.
To be tested.
That probably doesn't, that's probably not true if you're hanging out the side of a side-by-side or running off a motorcycle, but.
Yeah, and again, you heard, and it's kind of funny because it's not the DJI show, but there's another category like drones where they've dominated the market in gimbals. And I don't want to put anybody's stuff down that I haven't ever used, but if you're not using DJI gimbals, you're probably using something that's substandard. And that's how drones are.
Well, so there was when the gimbal market first started, because it used to be what's called a glide cam that you counterbalance with actual weight, and there's a bunch of like ball bearings that keep it moving smooth, and that's what people use in film. Every film you've ever seen with a really steady shot is either off of like a crane or one of these glide cams, or which is the brand name. I can't remember what the actual term is called. But then when gimbals first started, a dude just made one. He was an engineer and figured out like how you could rig this. And the first company that made one that was produced for general populace was called Freefly. And it was like 30 grand, maybe 15 grand, but it was so expensive. And I know because I wanted it. I wanted it so bad, but I did not have any kind of money to buy that kind of stuff. So I was like just drooling over it. And it was all carbon fiber, so it was super light. And then DJI drops their gimbal, their first one called the Ronin. That was that massive one. We had one of them.
We still have
two-handed,
one, but we don't use it.
That's right. But it had like a 15-pound load capacity. But where the Freefly was like a pound, the DJI was like 7-8 pounds. But it was the same form factor, and it was $2,500 versus $15,000. And so they just chopped the legs out from Freefly. And I think Freefly still makes gimbals that are more high-end gimbals. But yeah, DJI has cornered the market on gimbals.
And we started out with gimbals with a company called Xinyun, and they made good gimbals. They only lasted a couple hours. It was early on in the game, but they made our footage steady. And then so much of what we do these days is called run and gun. Gimbals are extra added parts that make run and gun hard. And by run and gun, you're on the back of a motorcycle, it stops, you jump off, you run down a hill and get the athletes as they run by.
Yep.
You run back up the hill and get on the motorcycle and go to the next checkpoint and stuff like that. And not that gimbals don't fit into that, but we've always been like less is more.
Yeah.
GoPros, just a handheld camera. And I've gotten pretty good at being fairly steady. You know what? It matters how late you were out the night before. It does.
It does.
Yeah, totally.
If you're dehydrated, you're going to have shaky footage.
Yeah. And it's funny that if you have an important shoot the next day, you have to like get sleep.
Yeah.
And because otherwise, if you just have a little twitch, it shows up in the footage.
Yeah.
Not on a GoPro.
True. Yeah. Okay. So the GoPro, just to go back very briefly, because you mentioned this, the GoPro has a thing called a max lens mod that you can put on it that makes it super wide angle, but it also can lock the horizon. So it doesn't matter which way you turn the GoPro, it stays pointed like it's pointed forward. And we have literally, I think it was either me or Mel at one point, were holding a GoPro on a ski slope and fell, and it looked like we just set the GoPro on the ground.
Yeah, and that's exactly, if you crash with a GoPro with horizon lock, it doesn't look like a crash.
Yeah, at all.
So, but we're gonna keep going on this equipment and stuff like that, and we'll try to keep everybody abreast of how it works. And then as soon as it's time for live, we'll be sure to share where you can go see the footage and what we've learned and how the transmission works. Look for the world's largest selfie in Vegas.
Yeah.
Will be all new transmission equipment, and hopefully it all works, because that's a big activation. Like it's not a big job, but a lot of eyes on it.
Yeah. And to be clear, that's the Rock and Roll Vegas that actually takes place on the Vegas Strip at night. So if you want to go sign up for the Rock and Roll Vegas, I actually don't know if there's still spots, but if there are, it's a really cool experience. You get to do the Strip closed down to cars. You get to run on it. And then we have a big camera set up that you have your face on the side of a building and can take a selfie.
Yeah. It's easily one of the coolest events in the world.
And
agreed.
Coming up, there's going to be more new equipment. We got a big B&H cart.
A big B&H cart that we have to, but it's not as exciting. It's a bunch of like fast recording cards and extra batteries and stuff
cool.
like that. It's not as one new drone,
more gimbals, another Aveda 2.
Yeah, it's just multiplying the stuff that we already have to be able to cover bigger events, which we have on the schedule. And we just saw the schedule today, 108 events.
108 right now. That's domestic, international, broadcast, All sorts
lot
of
of
events. Yeah.
And I kept my word. I was like, we're never going global. And now we have like 25 events outside
Fully global.
this side of the world. So
That's wild.
yeah, I mean, we have a handful of events in the Southern Hemisphere this year.
Yeah.
So-
and to be clear, because for the last several years, we've had events outside of the U.S. that we, except for the championships, we didn't travel to. We just helped with the broadcasting. We have people that will be traveling to all of those as well this year.
Yeah, the Ironman Championship events will be Kona, Nice, and Marabella, Spain.
Yeah.
And so we're excited for all those events. Although I'm excited not to go.
Yeah.
I'll go to Kona. And nothing against Nice and Marabella, but my job is...
My job is fill in the blank.
to be in the studio or in Kona.
Spend Monopoly money on status.
Yeah. So,
Awesome.
all right. Yeah. And that's the thing. And that's where it all goes full circle. I have no status.
Yeah.
So you can't
So
travel.
I can't.
Yeah.
It's not allowed.
All right. As usual, we'll leave you with an AI song. And this one is called Suck the Footage Off My Camera.
You need to suck it.
Gotta plug in gamma quick, flipping through those glitches like from my GoPros.